There was big news yesterday that affected both college football and the NFL. The Red Box Bowl, which you'll be able to see here on Fox Sports 1, features Oregon and Michigan State. Disappointing year for Michigan State. And frankly, kind of a disappointing year for Oregon, considering Justin Herbert's prodigious talent. But yesterday, on social media and regular media, Justin Herbert announced that he's going to return to Oregon for his senior season. Herbert was likely to be the first quarterback taken, and when you're going to be the first quarterback taken, you're at least in the discussion for the number one overall pick. It is kind of a unique year where many of the teams that are going to select at the top of the draft don't need a quarterback, right? Like the Cardinals, whatever they think about Josh Rosen, they're not going to close the book on Josh Rosen 1 year in. They're just not, because they took a quarterback last year. They may fire their head coach, but they're not going to, because we've seen that work with the Rams previously when they had a number one overall pick who didn't wow us in his first year. Jacksonville in the market for a quarterback. The Jets, not in the market for a quarterback. The Raiders, we don't know. They can get out of the Derek Carr deal for, I think, $4 million of dead cap money, maybe $5 million of dead cap money, or they can ride that wave out as he's performed better the last couple of games under John Gruden. Lions don't appear to be needing a quarterback. Tampa Bay, we think they will, but we don't know. Jameis earned back his starting spot, but would be the starter next year. It's not, last year we knew. Bills needed a quarterback. Jets needed a quarterback. Giants needed a quarterback. Browns needed a quarterback. We knew all of those things. And we assumed the Ravens would be looking as well as other teams. But with Justin Herbert off the board, I'm staying. I'm off the board. That means there's going to be backfill. And someone who would have been a second or third round pick, or the second, who would have been the third or fourth quarterback taken, may now well be taken not just in the first round, but high in the first round. If I were to ask you as a sports fan, you're watching the show, you're probably a sports fan, right? If I said, hey, you got a chance to sign a pro baseball contract or an NFL contract, which would you sign? And I would say, and this is just a guess, 95 to 99% of you would say, baseball, right? Baseball. You can play baseball forever. You never get hurt. Guys make 100, 200, 300. We still don't know what Bryce Harper is going to make when he becomes a Dodger, which seems like a formality. Short-term, long-term. Giancarlo Stanton, he could be playing in the NFL, but why? He's playing with the New York Yankees. Oh, if you're going to do it, baseball, it's not close. And, if you look at it as Giancarlo Stanton's contract, Bryce Harper's contract, Clayton Kershaw's contract, you're right. But that's not actually the question. Would you be a first-round draft pick as a quarterback or sign as a first-round draft pick as a baseball player? Here's the thing. The common misconception is baseball players make a ton more money. And on some level they do with 100% guaranteed contracts. The Albert Pujols contract, you pick the famous Mike Trout's current contract where he makes $30+ million. His next contract's going to blow all those out of the water. But all of those players were professional baseball players for 5 or 6 years before they ever made a big payday. I bring this up all the time. Aaron Judge, when he signs his next contract, is going to receive in the neighborhood of $200-300 million for the life of his deal. Aaron Judge has been a professional baseball player for 5 years out of Fresno State. 5. He made $600,000 contractually this year. It's positional, based upon positional dependent. If you're going to be a running back, that's one thing. A lineman, that's another thing. If you're going to be a quarterback, hold on now. The idea that, NFL players' average careers are 3 years or less or 4 years or less. Maybe if you're a special teams guy, if you're a return guy, if you're a dime a dozen slot wide receiver, you're right. If you're a quarterback, it's different. Right? Kirk Cousins signed an $80+ million contract. Now, Cousins, like a Major League Baseball player, didn't make much money his first couple of years in D.C. Then he made over $20 million guaranteed for 2 consecutive years as a franchise taggee, $45 million. Then with this deal, about $85 million guaranteed, right? So how's our math working now? $130 million in a 5-year stretch. That, by the way, is baseball money. And he'll be back on the market again. How do I know that? Because he's a pocket passer. And pocket passers, like baseball players, last forever. Don't believe me? Eli Manning's 38. Tom Brady's in his 40s. Phillip Rivers could race a pregnant woman, and his wife's been pregnant plenty of times, and come in third place. He's not a good athlete. And yet, he started, 207 consecutive games? Because we can and do, in fact, protect quarterbacks in the pocket. There are football players. And if the decision is, would I be a football player or a star baseball player? I pick star baseball player. But we're not talking about, 1, define star baseball players, and 2, we're not talking about football players. We're talking about quarterbacks. And if that's the decision for Kyler Murray of Oklahoma, it's an easy call. And that call should be football. Think about it. Justin Herbert decides to stay in school. That makes Kyler Murray suddenly now in play to be the second quarterback taken. And while you could sit there and go, he's tiny. He is. He's 5'9". He's got small hands. But he's been described to me by an NFL GM as Doug Flutie with Mike Vick athleticism. A great brain for playing the position, son of a coach, played at 2 big-time schools, and, of course, won the Heisman Trophy in the air raid system, which has produced Case Keenum, who, even though I think he's overpaid, I don't think the Broncos made the right decision. He's still a starting quarterback in the NFL and has produced Baker Mayfield. All these guys are going to be undersized air raid guys. Maybe he's too small, but somebody's going to make that mistake. And he's going to get 4 years of guaranteed money. And here's the kicker. If you sign a contract to be a baseball player, which he has already signed, it's $5 million guaranteed. He is not a Major League Baseball player. He's owned by the Oakland A's, who some would say are not a Major League Baseball team. But he's not guaranteed to be in the major leagues. And it's not until you're in the bigs for 4 years when you become arbitration eligible. And then and only then do you start to make real money. And you only make that real money if you really produce. As opposed to playing in the NFL, all the first-round draft picks play. And by the way, any of this nonsense that NFL contracts aren't fully guaranteed, that's not true. First-round draft picks contracts are fully guaranteed through the first 4 years. How many times do we have to see a team say, hey, we're not going to sit this guy. We're going to redshirt him. We're not going to play him. And then they play him. He may fail. Like, look, the Browns didn't even give Baker Mayfield first-team reps in training camp. Didn't let him play with the first team because they wanted to redshirt him. They wanted to Pat Mahomes him. Let him learn. Right? But at some point, you're going to play him. And he's going to be paid. And during the first 4 years, he'll get to see if he's an NFL quarterback. And if you can be a viable NFL, you don't even have to be any good. How many years has Blake Bortles held on for? And by the way, how much money does Blake Bortles make? $18 million. Fully guaranteed. And guaranteed next year. Oh, listen, marginal baseball players make a killing. So do marginal quarterbacks. And the difference is when you're drafted in the NFL, you play in the NFL. When you're drafted in Major League Baseball, you go to the abyss of the minor leagues. It's easier to be drafted in baseball than it is in football, but once you're drafted in football, you're actually playing in the NFL. And while I would agree with you if you said, hey, man, you're a slot wide receiver, you're going to be some gadget play guy, you could be Tavon Austin, you could be in the league, out of the league, you could be useful, not useful, you get beat up on a kick return, all that's true. But if he can learn to play from the pocket or roll out from the pocket like Russell Wilson, you can play for 20 years. If you don't believe me, we got a bunch of marginal athletes that are lighting up the NFL, throwing for 3,000 and 4,000 yards in their 15th through 20th season in the NFL. If you ask the average American, they would say, baseball, easy call. Football, come on. But then when you look at it, you say, it's not football, it's quarterback. And it's not Major League Baseball versus the NFL. It's the NFL versus minor leagues, and maybe at the end, Major League Baseball. It's not as easy as a decision as you might think. And, oh, yeah, by the way, here's the kicker. If he stinks at football, he can still go back and play baseball. Easy call. It's just the exact opposite easy call of what the common sports fan would think when they sat down and I started asking you, should Kyler Murray play baseball or football in the upcoming season? And by the way, he's playing against Alabama. The likelihood is that, like Baker Mayfield and what he did against Georgia, Alabama has always struggled with run-pass threats, the air raid system. He's their entire offense. He'll put up some big numbers. He's going to throw for 350-plus. He's going to run for 75, 80 yards. They might not win the game, but OU's going to score. He plays for a great play caller, has some great skill position players around him. Like, his value is going to skyrocket because people are going to look and go, we thought Baker was too small, but he's not. And I know he's smaller than Baker, but, he actually has better stats than Baker. He's a better athlete than Baker. And he seems to maybe have a better, more workable personality than Baker, who rubs some people the wrong way. Mark my words, when he looks at it, he will understand that in terms of finances, it's actually a no-brainer in the opposite of what most people think.
Hi, everybody. Thanks for watching. Subscribe here to get the latest from the show. Also, be sure to check out more of the best clips from The Herd or go watch a few segments from other shows on FS1.